Welcome, everyone, to today's podcast. I'm Anna, and joining me is James. Today, we're diving into a topic that many people struggle with: improving listening skills. Whether you're preparing for an exam like IELTS or simply want to become a better listener in everyday life, we'll be sharing practical tips and strategies.
That's right, Anna. Listening skills are often overlooked, but they're incredibly important. In fact, being a good listener can improve your communication, learning, and even relationships. So let's start by discussing the most common challenges people face with listening. Anna, what do you think is the number one issue people have?
Well, I think the biggest challenge is focus. A lot of people find it hard to concentrate when they're listening, especially when it's a long or complex conversation. Our minds tend to wander, and before we know it, we've missed half the information.
Exactly. Focus is key, and it's something we can actually train. One technique I recommend is active listening. This means you're not just hearing the words but really engaging with the content. You can do this by asking yourself questions as you listen, like what is the main point they're making? Or how does this relate to what was said earlier?
That's a great point. I also find that practicing mindfulness helps with focus. If you notice your mind drifting, gently bring your attention back to the speaker. It's a skill that improves with time, but it can make a huge difference.
Let's get into some practical strategies. What's the first thing someone can do today to start improving their listening skills?
One thing that has worked wonders for me is immersing myself in the language. If you're preparing for an English exam like IELTS, for example, listen to English as much as possible. Podcasts, audiobooks, news reports, even watching movies without subtitles can be really effective.
Yes, exposure to different accents and speaking speeds is crucial, but I'd also add, start small. If a full-length podcast feels overwhelming, listen to short segments first, then gradually build up your endurance. It's similar to working out. You don't start by running a marathon, you build up to it.
Love that analogy. And speaking of podcasts, one thing I recommend is shadowing. This means listening to a short piece of audio and then repeating what the speaker says, trying to match their tone, speed, and accent. It's a great way to train your ears.
That's a fantastic technique, Anna. Another one I use is note-taking. When you're listening to something, jot down key points or ideas. This helps you stay engaged and reinforces what you've heard. The act of writing it down solidifies the information.
Absolutely. You know, James, when I was preparing for my language exams, I had to really work on my listening skills. At first, it was frustrating. I'd listen to a recording and think, what did they just say? It took time, but once I started using some of these strategies, I noticed real improvement.
That's inspiring, Anna, and I think it's important to acknowledge that improving listening skills is a journey. It's not something that happens overnight, but with consistent effort, you'll see progress.
Exactly. Patience is key, and it's okay to not understand everything right away. The more you practice, the easier it becomes. It's also helpful to re-listen to materials. Sometimes when you listen a second or third time, things start to click.
Since many of our listeners are likely preparing for exams like IELTS, let's talk about exam-specific strategies. What can people do to improve their listening performance in an exam setting?
One of the best things you can do is practice with past papers. Familiarize yourself with the types of questions you'll face and get used to the exam format. Timing is critical, so practice under timed conditions.
Definitely. And don't forget to practice multitasking. In most listening tests, you'll need to listen, read questions, and write down answers at the same time. This can be tricky, so practicing this skill is vital.
Another tip is to predict what you'll hear based on the context. For example, if the question is about booking a hotel room, Expect to hear words related to dates, prices, and room types. This gives you a heads up on what to listen for.
Exactly. And one final tip for exams is to stay calm. It's easy to panic if you miss something, but don't let that throw you off. Focus on the next question and keep moving forward.
So, to sum up, improving listening skills takes time, but by focusing on active listening, immersing yourself in the language, and practicing techniques like note-taking and shadowing, you'll see progress.
Absolutely. And remember, listening is a skill that benefits every area of life, not just exams. Whether it's understanding conversations better, picking up on details, or simply being more present, good listening is always valuable.
We hope you found today's discussion helpful. If you've got any idea, you can write at comments.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Keep practicing, and we'll see you next time.
For more episodes, please subscribe our channel and like our videos. Goodbye.